Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Messi and Co. Apologies that we were a couple minutes late. We were having a few little issues with our streaming, but we're here and we're excited to be here. And as always, I'm Ashley, and that is Gian. And yeah, happy Saturday. Good morning. How are you doing, Gian?
I am doing good. I am doing very good. It's a football fan's dream of a day, of a week, of a month with all this football that we have. So I'm excited. Woke up watching Hungary, Switzerland. Now I'm excited for Spain, Croatia coming up at 12. Then you've got Italy, Albania. Then you've got Inter Miami. It's just like nonstop football all weekend, all month long. So I'm excited and happy to be here. And yeah, even Copa America, Messi. So much to talk about. So much fun stuff. So I'm doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Me too. It is really exciting. I love the Euros. I love Copa America. It's a really exciting time for soccer. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And we have an Inter Miami game tonight, which is why we're here to talk about it, because obviously, even with no Messi, with no Suarez, it's still it's still going to keep going, and hopefully the team is ready to get back on the win column and play against a struggling Philadelphia Union side. Hopefully some of our players like Robert Taylor, Leo Campana, obviously Jordi Alba, Busquets, everyone kind of steps up to the plate and keeps this team going on their good streak.
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of opportunities are opening up for players coming up right now, especially with all these players that are missing, whether it be for Copa or whether it be due to injuries, rehab, coming back. So I think that a lot of players are really going to have a lot of minutes to prove themselves, players that don't typically get that amount of playing time.
Yeah.
And I think I'm excited to see some of these guys step up. And, conversations, there have been conversations in the past about this team not performing in the absence of Messi. And now it's not only the absence of Messi, it's the absence of Suarez, it's the absence of Matias Rojas, it's the absence of players that, in Diego Gomez, players like Redondo. So this team really is going to have to prove themselves. And, I'm sure we'll talk about it soon, but there's, I'm a bit worried. I don't know how you feel, but I'm a bit worried knowing that there's a tough stretch coming up and this team didn't necessarily end. I think this quick 2-week break, they didn't end on the greatest note. So to me, there are definitely some things that I'm looking at, and I'm worried, a bit concerned with this team. Always have the hope that they'll do what they need to, but again, there's definitely some cause for concern with this team.
Yeah, true enough. I think that like we had said when we had our show earlier this week, that the break came at a good time, but also didn't come at a good time. And really how they play tonight and how they're going to play, I think is going to dictate, how good the break was. Like, was Tata and the staff able to take these 2 weeks and really figure out how to fix those defensive holes? Because, no defenders left. Obviously we've had some injuries, but we have the same defense. We have Busquets, we have Kremaski. Redondo is out tonight, but I think it's not a super serious injury as they maybe feared, and so I think he'll be back soon. Diego Gomez working his way back, but some of those core defensive pieces and defensive midfield positions are still here and they haven't changed. And so what we can hope is that during these 2 weeks, that's kind of been more of the game plan focus to figure out how to close up those gaps and those holes and get back to those clean sheets and low scoring opponents that we had been accustomed to during that 10-game unbeaten run.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the last few games, and it is concerning when you see us get beat by Atlanta United 3-1, a team that I believe
they
at that
moment,
it fired their coach at that moment in time. They were struggling big time. I think that they hadn't won a game in quite some time, and then and that was at home. And then we played the following game at home again against St. Louis, and we tied 3-3 2 back-to-back home games where we can't get 3 points, and that's really concerning. In fact, we got 1 out of 6.
Yeah.
So, and that was with your star players playing. So, I think that now this team really has to get their head on straight, and I'm looking also at the standings, and even with the standings, that's a cause for concern. You've got Messi possibly missing 5, maybe 6 games. And Inter Miami, yeah, they're in first place, but look at the teams right behind them that are close. You've got Cincinnati that has 2 games less played than Inter Miami, and they're only 2 points behind. You've got New York that has, well, New York has 1, but then I'm looking at Columbus, for example. Columbus only has 15 games played. They've got 3 games in hand over Miami, and they're only down nine points. Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, because they have 27, 8 points. So sorry. So if they get all of those games and they win them, they're ahead of us. So I think that when we're looking at this table, it could be a bit misleading and saying, yeah, we're still in first, but there are teams that if they do what they need to do, they can get ahead of us. And with this tough stretch, we got to make sure this doesn't get ugly. We have to make sure that we get as many points as possible because, again, man, the table is tighter than it looks.
Yeah.
Most definitely in
Yeah.
point.
No, it's true. It's so true. I think that tonight is a game that we really need to get something out of it. We definitely need a point. All 3 would obviously be ideal. It's away. It's in Philadelphia against, what is a very, very strong home stadium packed with their fans. I believe it's called Subaru Park. Really good fan base there in Philadelphia. And
Ashley, I'll say this, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. That may
no,
have
no.
been in the past, but they're not the best home team as a reason. They've won 1 of their last 10 matches. They've tied their last 3, and the last time they won a home match was March 30th against Minnesota 2-0. They have been struggling
Yeah,
as
but haven't we
as of
said that
late.
about the last few opponents? And what has it
No,
meant?
no, 100%. But it's something I think important to look at, and I think that to your point, which would have been the next thing I would have said is, we look at these teams that struggle, and I think that anytime they see Miami, they're like, this is a great opportunity for us to turn things around against one of the top teams in MLS. And yeah, I mean, we've faced teams that we've kind of had these same conversations about in the past,
Yes.
and we look at the record, and it ends up being a much tougher game than we thought. And I don't know. And I guess it'd be interesting to see what's your opinion. Like, how much of it is it that the teams are stepping up against Inter Miami, and how much of it is it that Inter Miami is playing down to their opponents and maybe coming in with a bit too much confidence and looking at them saying, "Hey, we've got these stars. We're the number 1 team in MLS. Maybe this is going to be an easier game than we thought," and then they go down 1-0 within the first half, and it just becomes a much tougher game than it needs to be.
Yeah. No, it's probably both. And I think, with Messi and Suarez and Rojas, but specifically Messi gone, maybe it's going to be kind of like that double reverse psychology where it's like the teams were putting up their best performance against Inter Miami because they're playing Messi, but now that Messi isn't there, they're like, oh, maybe we could be a little bit more, lax for what we're playing against, not maybe all the normal starters. So I don't know. I think each game is going to be really unique, honestly, but I think this is really the first big test, and I think to your point, the fact that Philadelphia has obviously taken a massive step back this year, is struggling, both home and away. It's where Inter Miami really do need to capitalize on that, and like really should get all 3 points, even without Messi and Suarez. We have a deep team. We have a good team. We have, like in any almost any other team in MLS, you would have Campana and Robert Taylor start, right? Like that's almost every team in MLS would have them starting. And so they are more than capable. Robert Taylor starts obviously normally, but Leo Campana is more than capable of being able to score goals and win. And so is Busquets and Alba, all very capable of creating opportunity and chances. Robert Taylor, very capable of creating opportunity. Benjamin Kremaski, same thing. He's obviously trying hard to get onto the U.S. men's Olympic roster in August. And look, he knows that this is a really important stretch for him, right? Where he's going to get more minutes than he normally would, and that he has to show his ability to play make, to score, to handle the middle of the field. And he has the ability to do it, by the way. Kremaski is extremely, extremely talented. And I'm excited. I'm excited for all of them. Philadelphia is like you said, they're 8th right now. They're 15 points behind Inter Miami. 2 games in hand, but 15 points behind us. And so that means we should be able to get something out of this game. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the tactics look like, what the starters look like, and just the energy, right? Like the energy, the will, the belief in themselves to be able to win and play well. And so it's going to be a difficult stretch. It's going to be a difficult couple of weeks. We'll see how far Uruguay go. We'll see how far Paraguay go. We'll see how far Argentina goes. We're expecting Argentina to go the farthest, but you never know. You never know with international tournaments how they go. And so it's just game by game for Inter Miami, right? It's match by match. There's probably 18 points in total that we're gonna have without Messi for sure, maybe without Suarez too. Of those 18 points, how many points can we get, and how can we keep the confidence alive?
Yeah, agreed. I think that those are, you mentioned Argentina, you mentioned Uruguay. I think that those are two teams, obviously, and the most would agree, and they're probably two of the odds-on favorites to go ahead as far as they can, along with probably Brazil. And then you've got Colombia behind, but Suarez and Messi could definitely go deep into this competition. They're on two of the best teams right now in Copa America. And yeah, I think Inter Miami needs to figure out a way to be able to get good results amongst their absence. But again, the tough part is not only are they dealing with absences due to Copa, but also absences due to injuries. Now, we look at this team in Philadelphia, and we talked about their record. We talked about their performances as of late, but they're still like a middle of the table team. We're not talking about a team that's 15th or 14th either. So they should be a formidable opponent. But I think that what's going to be interesting for Inter Miami as they face Philadelphia today is what type of Philadelphia team are they going to be facing? We've seen Inter Miami face teams that have played them very well and have kind of figured out what Inter Miami's weaknesses have been and figured out what the blueprint is to either beat them or to tie them. And a lot of these teams are following the same blueprint. And the blueprint basically is well, it's two things, I think. One is Inter Miami is a team that struggles very much offensively when they're facing a team that has 5 defenders in that back line. They have a really tough time breaking that back line, especially when you have 5 in the back line and then you've got 4 in the middle that clog up the passing lanes. Inter Miami has struggled mightily against that strategy. And there have been teams that have done that and then just basically, banked on the counterattack and saying, hey, we're not going to pressure high up. We're going to wait for Inter Miami to attack us. And then once we get that ball back, we're going to counterattack. And there have been teams that do that differently too. And the ones that have been the most successful are the ones that counterattack with numbers, because we've seen other teams play the same counterattack, but they only commit 1 to 2 players on the counter. Inter Miami hasn't struggled too much, but there have been teams, again, like I believe it was either St. Louis or a previous game where they counterattacked with 3, 4, 5 players at one time, and Inter Miami was a disaster on defense because we know they commit so many players to the attack. So to me, I'm looking at this Philadelphia Union team that has deployed different types of formations within their last few games, and I'm wondering which one are they going to do. Against Charlotte, they played I believe it was a 4-3-1-2. But then against Toronto, they did a 4-1-2-1-2. So they played 4 with a diamond in the middle. But to me, what's the most interesting one is it's the one against Montreal, which I believe was their last game, where they played a 3-5-2 with their wing backs in Baezo and Wagner. And that's what I think they're going to do against Inter Miami. They're probably going to play a 3-5-2 with their 2 wing backs that are going to come back on defense and play with that back line of 5. Inter Miami is probably going to struggle because they struggled with Messi, they struggled with Suarez, they struggled with Taylor, with all of them against those types of teams. So imagine now with no Messi and no Suarez, your 2 top goal scorers. Inter Miami's got to be ready for this strategy. They've got to figure out what are we going to do to make sure that we can beat a team that's probably going to play us with a back five, and also they're probably going to attack us even more now, knowing that we're missing Freire, that our defense has been struggling, that our midfield, a midfield that has been struggling as well, because we can't put all the blame on the defense. We have to see that a lot of these mistakes and a lot of these counterattacks that were one-on-ones against our center backs were because our midfield was not in the right places at the right time. They didn't get back in time. I mean, now you don't have Gomez, you don't have Redondo. You're going to have Busquets, Gressel, and somebody else. So we have to make sure that our midfield is intact, and I think that that'll be interesting to see how are they going to play this Philadelphia Union side that is probably ready to attack Miami's biggest weaknesses.
And that's a great question. What is Tata's tactics going to be? I'm going to really quickly show this by Black Story because I think this is a really good idea. Question for GM, maybe do a segment. Who's going to be the MVP in the next 6 matches? Your pick is Taylor. I think what we can do maybe is each preview or each post game, depending on it is, we can say who we think the MVP is going to be and then who the MVP actually is, right? And we can kind of go through it. I'll say that I think tonight the MVP is actually going to be Sergio Busquets, because I think he is going to have to be a real conductor in the midfield, which is what he's one of the best to ever play that position and to do that. And I think, without having Messi basically dropping back to be that conductor and creating the offense, he's going to have to be able to do both, right? He's going to have to be able to monitor the defense and step back when needed, but also probably try and kickstart a lot of those creative chances and ball movement, see those open spaces, see those, the players running on the wing, whether it's Robert Taylor, whether it's Gressel, whether it's Alphonso, whoever it is, and connecting it. So I think he is going to have a really, really important role to play. And I hope that tonight is the first sort of dose of it. But what I want, or do you want to say yours first before because I have something else I want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. And hi, Ash Preetham.
Yeah,
The other Ash. Yeah. So I think that if it's not Busquets, I think it's probably going to be Campana. He is a guy that is going to have all the minutes he needs to prove himself, if you still think he hasn't, because there are still some that think he needs to prove himself. But I think he's going to have all the minutes to be able to prove himself to the national team, national men's team in Ecuador as well, who didn't pick him up, who I think he deserved to go. And right now, he's going to basically be the heart of the offense. Again, no Messi, no Suarez, no Matias Rojas. You still got Robert Taylor there, but Robert Taylor is, I think, going to be Campana is going to be the target of everybody. Yeah. He's going to be right there in the middle. So I think that he's going to be the guy that will be able to really be the MVP tonight. I think if he scores multiple goals, they're going to need him to be. I think that that'll be important. And then one thing that I thought was interesting as well is he's going to have to balance the fact that he's going to be the main target as far as scoring, but the other part is not putting too much pressure on himself, playing his game, and not overthinking things, because that could mess with him and the way that he plays, thinking that he needs to shoulder everything on this team. He needs to remember, to your point, he's also got Busquets on the team. You've got Alba on the team. So he needs to be able to play freely, mentally be in a good space to be able to do the best that he can for this team. And Tata did the same thing. Tata said the same thing, rather, on Friday, where he mentioned it would be unfair to put all these expectations on Campana and to expect him to be the guy that puts the entire team on his back.
Right.
He wants him to know that he, play freely, do what you need to do, and the goals will come. So I think that would be the other MVP in my eyes.
Yeah, 100%. And look, maybe it's a case where obviously we see a couple about Robert Taylor. Maybe it's different every night. Maybe it's, depending on the game, depending on the game plan. Maybe there's multiple. So it's the more who play well, the better. But to your point, something I do want to talk about is how do we think the team is going to line up? Because this is where obviously this is like kind of the crux of the matter, right? Like who's going to line up where and who's going to play. And I want to go first because I have a little bit of I don't know if it's a wild card, but it's what I would truly like to see. And I'll be interested if Tata thinks similarly or maybe different. But yeah, so the back four is the back four, right? It's gonna be Alba. It's gonna be most likely Kristoff if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, it'll be Sailor. It'll be Tomas Aviles, and then it'll be Chelo. So that I think is not going to change, right? Midfield three. This is where I'm going to start making some changes. I think it's going to be Busquets, Kremaski, and Yannick Bright.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then the front three is going to be Robert Taylor, Campana, and Gressel.
Okay.
Because I think that, you know, Gressel has played right winger many times before, and he can do great crosses when he has to. And I think, you know, Yannick Bright has been incredible in the games he's played, and him and Busquets I think is going to be a good combination, because we saw very clearly that you can't do Kremaski, Gressel, and Busquets because there's not enough speed and there's not enough like defensive, like picking those defenders up. Yannick Bright does have that, and I think he's going to play a lot in these next 6 games. I'm hoping, at least, because every time I've seen him play, I think he's just been absolutely incredible for such a young age. He's a rookie, really, really good. And I think this is a chance for him, especially when Redondo can't play and Gomez is still out, for him to play. And so in my sort of perfect world, you know, or something of the sort, that is what I'd like to see them maybe try and start with. And look, maybe it doesn't work and they need to do some rotations. I can see situations where Gressel comes back to the midfields for either Kremaski or Yannick Bright. Maybe you have Robert Taylor on the right and you have like Leo Alfonso on the left or something like that. Like, I think there will be a couple of variations and there'll be substitutions and things like that. But in terms of what I would like to see as those starting 11, I'd like to see that first.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. I think for me, some of the things that could happen are, and I think this one is probably less likely than some of the other scenarios, but if there is any change in the defense, it might be Kristoff out and Ian Frey in for center back. I don't think that's I don't think that's likely, but it's just something to throw around and think about. It could happen. I think that as far as the rest of the team, what that looks like, I feel like it might look more like a 4-4-2 than a 4-3-3. I think that the defense isn't going to move around, but I think up front, obviously, you're going to have Robert Taylor and Campana. Then in the midfield, I got to agree 100% with the Yannick Bright. I was thinking the same thing. I think Yannick Bright is going to be the true defensive midfielder. I don't think it's going to be Busquets.
Yeah.
Yannick Bright is going to be the guy that's going to be running up and down and just basically doing the bulk of the running, and then allowing Busquets to kind of be more stationary in the midfield and be able to facilitate. So it'll be those two, I believe, in the middle. And then Gressel is a staple in that midfield. If it's not that he's resting or he's injured, he's going to play all the time. That's Tata's guy. So he's going to play definitely on the right side. And then I believe on the left side, it's probably going to be Kremaski. If Kremaski doesn't start, it might be Alfonso. And I think the reason that would happen is because you've got to remember then on the bench, then you're very thin. You don't have a guy with experience coming off of the bench. So I think that would be, for me, the reason why you would put maybe Alfonso, so that Kremaski can come in that second half. And you also need speed. You know, Gressel's not going to give you speed on that right side. He's going to give you a different type of talent, a different type of skill set. Alfonso is going to give you speed, more speed than Kremaski is. And for me, that's what it would look like. And again, I think it's going to be probably more of a 4-4-2 up front. But this is going to be, I think, the two players that are going to probably be the most important from an offensive standpoint. I think are going to be one, Busquets, to what you said earlier about the facilitating, but then also it's going to be Robert Taylor. Yeah. Robert Taylor and Busquets are going to be the guys that need to move the ball the most. And then obviously you've got Alba on that left side, that if we're going to be successful, I think that he needs to associate himself very well with Robert Taylor. Yeah. They're going to have to be overlapping. They're going to have to be playing off of each other, something that we've seen done in the past and that has been very successful. So I hope that they do that. But also one of the things is, we saw this team be very hard-headed in the past, where they forced things down the two middle channels of the field, and teams have been very good at closing those two middle channels, and they've completely forgot about the wings. I think that this game, if that tends to happen, they need to make sure that they play on the outside with Alba, play on the outside with Taylor, play on the outside with Chelo on the right, which sometimes they don't even use that. They don't even use that to their advantage, where Chelo has been able to do some things on that right side. Sometimes they completely forget about him.
Yeah.
So those are going to be kind of like the keys for me. And I think that that's what the team will look like. But again, we've seen this team in the past in the midfield struggle. That's why Yannick Bright is going to be so important in this game. Him and Busquets are going to need to be able. They're going to need to make sure that one or the two of them is going to always be ready for that counterattack. Because if they both push up, which isn't really Yannick Bright's game, so that's what's kind of key. His game is always this kind of stay behind. So I think that that'll help definitely a lot on the defense, especially with our fullbacks pushing forward. Which again, I hope that looks at that and says, "Hey, whichever one of you goes up, whether it's Alba or Chelo, the other one of you needs to stay behind and make a backline of 3." I think that that'll be important.
And look, we also may even see a scenario where they play actually, and I obviously we don't. You especially do not love this. I don't love it either, always, but.
Don't say it.
Wow, that's so funny. This is literally exactly what I'm going to say. You said it just now. We may see some back 5 where you have Alba and Negri playing at the same time because, Tata has probably said that Alba is going to have to, look, he scored and he assisted the 2 goals in the last game, right? Like, he obviously knows how to score and create offense. And so, literally, Black Story, great call, because I was literally going to say that we may see some situations where we have both of them playing and he's asking Alba to be a little bit more offensive minded than he normally would be, instead of just making a few runs, making consistent, like staying really high up the pitch, having Robert Taylor move in a little bit and creating some confusion for the defense and some more options for crossing for both Robert Taylor and for Campana. So that could definitely happen. But I think what we can agree on for sure is that, we talked about like Robert Taylor, Campana, Busquets, all players who could be MVPs and who have to make a huge difference. But I think when it's all said and done at these 6 games, who has the most ability to make the most crucial difference is Yannick Bright. And it's going to be so important for Tata to use him consistently. He's young and he may, maybe he'll make a few mistakes, but he can't be taken out. He can't, they have to figure out a way to have the defensive midfield go through Yannick Bright, because Sergio Busquets has to be able to be creating offense because of no Messi. Has to be able to be creating offense and creating those passes and creating those lanes. It is so important.
Yeah, and one of the things I also wanted to mention is remember some of these kind of games that we've played against the Union before. Inter Miami, one of the last few games that they played against Philadelphia Union, they've struggled with the height of their defense. Philadelphia Union's defense. They have a really bunch of tall guys in the back. They've got Jake Elliott. They've got Glesnes that I believe are both over 6 feet. They're like Jake 6'2", 6'3", or something like that. And they scored on us a few times on set pieces on some of the last few games that we played against them. Obviously, we've gone better at the set pieces, but we're not the tallest team in the back.
No.
So those are 2 guys that I think are going to be important for this Philadelphia Union side and for us to make sure that we are marking right on those set pieces that are sure to come. And then I think they also, I forgot which one of them it is, whether it's Jake Elliott or Glesnes, but one of them really likes to actually incorporate themselves into the offense and really just.
I think it's Glesnes.
It might be Glesnes, yeah. That basically it's like having another
shot.
Yeah, like having another center forward. Basically, he is. So they've got to be cognizant of that. But look, this Inter Miami team, I think, was built in mind for this specific time during of Copa America. This isn't something that comes as a surprise. It isn't something that has this Inter Miami team scrambling. They've been preparing this for a while. A lot of the signings that they made were to add depth to this team for this moment. And we've been talking about this for a long time. We knew it was going to come. And we're finally
like the looming shadow.
Yeah, we're finally here. and now Inter Miami is going to have to they're going to have to do what they've been preparing for this entire time. Again, with some added injuries, unfortunately, but they have enough to get a good result. And I think that a good result for me is at least come back with the tie. You always want to see your team win. You always think that they have enough. I think that they have enough, but I think that for the win, but I think that we all need to understand that this is a team that, again, is missing their stars, is missing other players due to injury. So they're a bit thin. If they can go into Philadelphia and come out with a point, I would be happy. I would be happy for this team. And I think that that's what's most important right now is accumulate as many points as you can. Try to limit the losses.
Agreed. Yeah, and look, Wednesday we're playing against Columbus, which is going to be an extraordinarily difficult game. And however much confidence we can get tonight with either a win or a point, I think is super important. Question from Alan saying, is Noah Allen out? No, I don't think so. I think it's just he's not the first choice, and with Negri back, he's not the second choice. Look, we obviously we've had some thinning of our defense, and if there's a situation where Kristoff is unavailable, Ryan Sailor's unavailable, like things happen, injuries happen, or just like they're not in form, you may see Noah Allen come in as a third center back or as a left-sided center back, maybe a little bit. But I just don't think right now with both Alba and Negri, Alba and Negri, I don't think he's as high up on the depth chart. I think is really just the main issue, but we'll see. There's going to have to be a lot of rotations. Look, this week, for example, we have 3 games in 8 days, right? So there's going to be some rotation, and who it will be interesting. I think look, I wish we had Messi every single game. Of course I do, but Copa America is here. I'm excited to watch him and support him for Argentina. He made a comment.
By the way, he scored 2 goals. By the way, yesterday.
I know. Yeah, so. He looked great. I think that really quickly we can, because this is still called Messi and Co. He made a comment this week saying that Inter Miami is going to be his last club, which I think we all sort of kind of expected. Maybe there was always talk he could be going back to New Old Boys or something maybe, but he seems to love it here. He loves being in Miami. He has a lot of his friends as teammates. He has a lot of young Argentinian players that he's helping here. His family is all here. He gets to live. Obviously, whenever he goes places, there's still crowds and stuff like that. But he gets to live, I think, a lot more of like a regular life than he ever got to do in Europe. And I think he's really enjoying it. And I think he's still playing at a high level. I'm thinking he may extend for another year or two. And like we said, have kind of Copa or have the 2026 World Cup be the end. I think maybe, injuries happen, tiredness happens, whatever he wants to do, he's earned the right to do. But I think we'll be getting at least another year or 2 of him, which makes me really excited because I love him and he's playing still at such a high level. He's the best player in MLS. It's not even close. He'd be on his starting 11 in almost, maybe besides Man City, and maybe one or two, and Real Madrid, he'd be a starting player on any team in Europe. Be for real. So it'll be exciting. And I think the story's just beginning with Messi and Inter Miami. I think we have a couple more years of greatness.
Yeah, I'm hoping he makes it to the new stadium opening. That'd be great to see him play there. I think that'd be fun. And yeah, I mean, he turned down over $1 billion to play at Al Hilal to come here to Miami, and I think that for him, it's all about his family. Obviously, that's why he chose his family over money, so that his family is happy here in Inter Miami. And I think that as long as, to what you said earlier,
kids are doing great in the academy, they seem to really like it.
Yeah, as long as he's having fun, as long as he feels healthy, and as long as his family is happy, they'll stay here in Miami. And we could see him play maybe another 2 years. Yeah. And hopefully someday with Angel Di Maria here in a new stadium, well, that'd be amazing. But yeah.
So I was a good comment, right? It was good, and as long as things stay as they are, and he gets to keep playing so close to, and I mean, look, there's such a huge Latin American community in South Florida, huge, and in the U.S. in general. It's still like a 9-hour flight to Argentina, but he's closer than he's ever been, and there's a lot of culture and a lot of aspects of Miami that is very similar to what he's probably comfortable with, and he just seems so happy. And I'm happy because he's happy. And so, these next couple of games will be difficult for sure. But I don't, the main thing is that this season is not the last season for Messi. And I think there's still a lot of that story to be written. So it's going to be exciting, and we'll hopefully be along with it for the whole ride and keep building this community and doing more fun things. So that was my little piece on Messi, because this is of course called Messi and Co. But
What about our predictions?
that's what I was just
Our
about to say. I was about to
scores?
say it's time to give our predictions for the game and close this out. I will say that the game is tonight at 7:30 on Apple TV, and there will be a post game live stream as well to discuss what is hopefully a much better performance and hopefully a good start of this stretch. So excited for that. Excited for all the games to come. Predictions, Gian, go ahead.
Okay. Which also, by the way, if you're here in South Florida, we'll also be watching the Panthers game. Florida Panthers have the chance at winning the Stanley Cup tonight, so that's exciting. But as far as my prediction for this game, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think that it'll probably be a very tough game, and I think I'm going to go with and this is not what I want, so just be prepared. This is what I think will happen. I think it's going to be a 1-1 game. 1-1. I really do. I think it'll be really tough, and I think both sides are going to go at it, and I think it'll be a gritty game. I think it'll be a physical game, and I think it'll be 1-1.
I'm going to say that we win 2-1.
2-1? Okay.
2-1, yeah. I think it's going to be 1-1 for a long time. I think we're going to score first, then they're going to score. And then it's going to be 1-1 for a while. But, in those last 20 minutes of the game, I think that Busquets is still probably he will be the highest IQ player on the field by a lot. And so I think, and so will probably Jordi Alba, like if we're just talking about in their careers. And so in those last 20 minutes, I think that they will be able to create for Robert Taylor an opportunity to take a couple shots, for Campana an opportunity to take a couple shots. And I think we may just be able to pull out a 2-1 win.
Do you think Campana scoring?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, who's your other scorer? Out of curiosity, who do you think? Just throw out a name. Because I think Campana scoring. So that's my prediction.
I think Campana scoring both goals.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I like that.
I think Robert Taylor's creating.
Okay, is he your other prediction, is he taking his shirt off?
No, not for an away game.
Not for an away game. Well, it depends. Is it the second goal? Is the second goal come in stoppage time? That could be a bit different, I think.
If the second goal comes in stoppage time, then yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's a 2-1 can definitely happen. That's what I want to see happen. But what I think will happen is the 1-1. But yeah,
Alba could easily score for sure.
Taylor and Alba can score. Campana can score. It'd be interesting to see a Gressel goal. I'd love to see a Gressel goal.
I'd love to see a Gressel goal. Maybe, you never know.
But yes, who else do you guys think, before we end this one? Who else do you guys think might score? We see Taylor, we see Alba.
It may be a set play. Tomas Aviles gets a heading goal.
Yeah, which we've seen before.
That could be a possibility. Maybe off the bench, Alfonso scores. Maybe Kramaski scores.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting, right? Like there's still a lot of good quality on the team. And so there's definitely plenty of people who can score a goal, and that is what matters. Yeah,
100%. I think right now, through this conversation, and what we can figure out is that everybody has an opportunity today to prove themselves. Everybody has an opportunity to put this team over the hump and get the win. And it's going to take, I believe, everybody. It's going to take everybody to be at the top of their game. They're all going to have to gel. They're all going to have to play their positions and do exactly as the game plan. And I think that if they all are on top of their game, I think we can get the win today. But regardless, it's a tough game, and it's always a tough game for Inter Miami. It doesn't matter who they play. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that what we can get out of this episode is basically what are the tactics? What is this Philadelphia Union side going to look like? And, based off of what we talked about, it depends on how they're going to play. Are they going to play a game that is going to make it really difficult on Inter Miami, playing very defensive, or are they going to play a bit more free, knowing that there's no Messi, knowing that there's no Suarez, no Matías Rojas? Because if they play a bit more free, a bit less defensive, that'll make it a lot easier on Inter Miami from an offensive standpoint. There'll be a lot more open passing channels. There'll be a lot more opportunities. And I hope for me tonight, I hope that's the game we play. That's a more enjoyable type of game when you see teams play more freely and more passing lanes open up. So I just hope that that's the type of game. I hope Philadelphia comes out like that. It'll definitely make it a lot more easier than if they play a very defensive game that we've seen Inter Miami struggle in the past. But yeah, it's just great discussion and ready and excited for tonight's game.
Me too. So, like we said, Messi and Co. We're back. We'll be consistent episodes. Like I said, most likely there's going to be a post-game live stream tonight. We'll have a preview for the game Wednesday. We're back to having games thick and fast. Lots to talk about. We'll also obviously be doing stuff about Messi, about Argentina, Copa America. So much good soccer happening. It's really exciting. And so make sure, of course, you're following Messi and Co. on Twitter/X so that you get all of the latest news, you get all of the team updates, you get game updates, you get our streaming updates, our new episodes when they drop, how to listen, how to watch. And yeah, we're super excited following us on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, 5 Reasons Sports. You have that notification bell on. You like and you comment on this video and say just how much you absolutely love me. And if you want Gian as well. And TikTok, make sure you're following us, Messi and Co. 5RSN. We're back and it's really exciting. And all we can say before we go is, of course, vamos Inter Miami.
Vamos Inter Miami. Bye, guys.
Bye.